Hello everyone, George here, Catholic Positive Energy. Nice to see everybody. It's actually a warm day right now. For the first time in a long time, I have the AC running because it's a little warm outside. That's why I'm not wearing a sweater. Of course, if it gets colder in here, then I'll need to wear one inside. But anyways, I'm here. I'm very busy, just working on schoolwork. So far, so good, but I wanted to obviously come on live before it got dark. I was actually about to come on when it got later, but I figured, I've noticed a lot of you guys don't like it when I come on when it's dark. Even if I have lights on around me, it's not lit up enough to where you can see my face in there, and it's really dark right here, and you can barely see me, and it's just not as fun to watch, to see, a face in the dark talking about Catholic positive energy rather than seeing a well-lit environment where you see me talking about Catholic positive energy. So I'll try very hard never to come on during nighttime. But if I have to, I'll probably just have more lights on around me. If I absolutely have to, that's all. So anyways, I was thinking of a topic before I came on here. And here's something, I know I've touched on this maybe once in one of my previous videos long ago. I don't remember which one, but the name of this broadcast is, were any of you bullied as a kid? Now, if you've been following me for a while, you've heard me talk about this. I was bullied a lot as a kid. I have a friend here watching me right now. Chi Mostacho. Hi, Cheryl. Good morning, my dear friend. God bless you, and happy Ash Wednesday to you, friend. Well, right now it's Tuesday here, but I'm sure where you are it's Wednesday. And yes, I do know that for a fact. Well, I hope you're enjoying your day. God bless you, Cheryl. Anyways, yeah, I love giving shout-outs to people. So, were any of you bullied as a kid? Now, I was bullied a lot as a kid, and as I've said to you many, many times, for like 99% of my life up until about 3 years ago, my life was filled with an overwhelmingly amount of negative energy. And now that I look back on it, this is hard for me to say, but I'm going to say it because I don't want to be stubborn or immature or deny things, because I live in reality and I am mature. I'm not insecure. For most of my life being filled with negative energy when I was a kid, a teenager, or even a younger adult, it was because I allowed it to. And the main reason why I allowed my life to be filled with so much negative energy is because I grew up around so many people who had negative energy. I didn't have any positive influences in my life. I grew up around people who are angry, who react badly to everything, who always look on the downside, who always think and feel and look at life in the worst possible ways. I was surrounded by people like that. So it was natural that I was going to pick up on that myself. I mean, I heard the phrase when I was younger, turn that frown upside down, but it never worked for me. I mean, as a kid, you need to go out of your way to be, if you're an adult talking to a kid, you have to go out of your way to be very influential to that kid. Because when an adult is talking to a kid, you have to play down to them. You have to talk to them and not at them. I'm sure you all know what I mean. Talk to someone and not at them. Like if somebody's trying to hassle you to try to sell you something, that is an example of talking at you because they don't care about you. They're just trying to get something out of you. So you need to talk to people, not at them, especially when they're down and out. I was bullied a lot as a kid, and that is one of the most negative, traumatic experiences I ever had. This is one of the reasons I didn't... Okay, like I say here, I'm going to talk about something, but please, I don't want anybody to accuse me of being... all right, I'll say politically correct or incorrect. Please, don't accuse me of that, okay? I'm just telling you a story about my life, about my past, so, okay? That's my whole purpose for saying this. Having said that, now I'll go on with my story. I didn't like being in public school as a kid. And, I was homeschooled for all of high school, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. It was the best environment for me. You see, when I was a kid, I was often intimidated by other kids. I was worried I wouldn't fit in. I didn't know how to interact with people in a sense where people around me would feel comfortable. I was often upset, and I would take things the wrong way. And there were a lot of times when I had people bully me, pick on me, make fun of me constantly. I remember often saying this to someone who I'm very close to. When I was a kid and I was going to school, I can't remember a single time when I was able to walk 10 steps without somebody making fun of me. Somebody, somewhere. As soon as somebody saw me, they would say horrible things to me to try to humiliate me, degrade me, and to try to hurt me. And I hated it. I always thought, and this is how I think even now, I would always think this when I was a kid. Look, if you don't like me, then don't talk to me. Okay? Stop talking to me. Stop looking at me. Stop interacting with me if you don't like me. Okay? Just let me go about my day and live my life, and don't say one word to me at all, because every time you talk to me, you're always being terrible. You're always saying horrible things. I mean, they obviously don't care about me and didn't like me, so I felt that they should just leave me alone and never speak to me unless they absolutely had to. That was one thing that was traumatic for me. I didn't like, and I don't like it when people are rude to me. Especially when they know that I don't like it. I've had even family members do that to me. And that's why I don't speak to them right now. So, with regards to the bullying, let me continue on. I was very, very upset by this a lot. I was constantly sad and unhappy all the time in school. I'd be crying. I felt like when I was in school, I was in a terrible, torturous dungeon. And because I got bullied a lot, and I complained to the teachers and to the school, but eventually they got tired of me complaining. And at the time, this is how I looked at it. Look, I just want these people to leave me alone, and they're doing something really, really horrible, and they should be in trouble for this. But obviously they didn't look at it that way. I mean, but when you're a kid, you're not going to look at things the way the adults look at it, the way the school administrators are going to look at it. When you're a kid, you're looking at it as, this person's being really mean to me. They're being very terrible to me. I want them to stop. I want them to leave me alone. I want them in trouble. That's how I looked at it. And I remember even when I was on the school bus going home, oh yeah, I'd have people bullying me there. I mean, there were bullies who would want to sit next to me, even though they didn't like me, because they wanted to bully me. They never wanted to leave me alone, never let up. Never. Even if they were sitting like across from me or a couple of feet away, oh yeah, they would often yell horrible things to me just to get to me. And it did get to me. I didn't want to be in school at all. And I didn't enjoy going there. I was always so terribly unhappy when I knew that I had to go to school, or when I felt like, oh man, the weekend's about to be over, and now I have to go to this place again and go through all of these negative, traumatic experiences. If I didn't go through these things as a kid, I would have been filled with a lot of positive energy a long time ago when I was much younger. But this was something that I could not avoid myself, and it affected me in a really bad way. Now, here's something I want you all to understand, having said this about the bullying. And listen, if any of you have a story that you feel comfortable sharing with me, please put them in the comments here, whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube. Please put them in the comments. I want to hear your stories as well, so, we can learn from each other and help each other out. Here's something I want you to understand. Now, with regards to bullies, whether they're children or even adults who may bully other people, hopefully you're not being bullied right now as an adult. Hopefully you're not. I've noticed something now. You see, now I'm 35. Yeah, I'm sure I look much younger. Anyways, and I've, tried looking up people from my past, some of these bullies, just to see how their lives turned out. And quite a few of them, their lives did not turn out well. Now, I'm just telling you what's going on. I'm not saying that I'm happy about this or, that I want to celebrate. I just want you to understand something about bullying, okay? Now, if you're somebody like me who was bullied a lot as a kid, and you see these people bullying you, they may look like they're happy, they may seem like they're happy, it might look to them or it might look to you that maybe their lives might turn out well or even better than yours because they seem to be happier than you because they're making you unhappy. That's not always the case. In recent years, I've looked up some of these people I went to school with who bullied me, and no, their lives didn't turn out well at all. One in particular, who I want to mention, who's at the top of my list, somebody who bullied me a lot, who was always starved for attention and very disruptive in class, and the teachers would often yell at them and get irritated by them. This person, he never wanted to be quiet. He never behaved himself. Always constantly hyperactive, out of control, starved for attention, harassed me constantly, would always want to be near me and sit next to me, even though he wasn't my friend. He just wanted to bug me. And I didn't appreciate any of that. I found out, when I Googled his name, back in 2013, he committed suicide. He blew his brains out. Now, I never would have expected this, but like I say, when I knew him as a kid, he always seemed like he was happy because he was, getting to me. He had friends and things like that, but his life didn't turn out that well as an adult. And there were some other people who I looked up from my past, people who I went to school with who bullied me. Some have been in and out of prison and, in trouble with the law. So, what I want you to understand, this is what I want your takeaway to be from this broadcast. Just because somebody may get a pleasure out of hurting you or traumatizing you, just because they seem to be happy hurting you, does not mean that their lives are going to turn out better than yours. It does not mean that their lives are going to be filled with positive energy and yours will not be. To tell you the truth, based on what I've learned, at least from this experience, my experience may be different from your experiences. If somebody bullies me and they get a sick pleasure out of hurting me and watching me cry and tearing me apart, well, it's because their lives, they're not really, they don't have a clean head on their shoulders. And it's because their lives, they're unhappy. So that's why they hurt people like me or like you. But trust me, as long as you continue to sincerely be a good person to our Lord Jesus Christ and to those around you, your lives will turn out better than theirs. Like I say, some of these people who bullied me, one committed suicide, a couple others went to prison. They're not a part of my life anymore. I don't keep in touch with them. I'm not their friend. But I've noticed this. And I was blown away. See, my life is going quite well. It's not perfect, but I heard there's no such thing as a perfect life. Even if you are a wealthy person, there's no such thing as a perfect life. Everybody has to deal with problems, positive and negative energy, so on and so forth, no matter who you are. Now, my life has actually turned out well. So, having said that, like I say, please let this be your takeaway. Just because people are really terrible to you constantly and it tears you apart and it hurts you and makes you unbelievably sad and maybe even traumatized, does not mean that your life will never get better. It does not mean that these people who hurt you are going to have happier lives than you and better things than you. It's actually quite the opposite. So when you look at this, and it's taken me years just to learn from this, because I'm still learning from it now. When you're bullied, And like I say, as long as you sincerely try to be a good person in the eyes of God and to those around you, and care about everyone, and love everyone, don't have to like everyone, but love everyone, God has your back. God loves you. God looks out for you. You're not, I'm not the one, you're not the one who's bullying people. You're not the one who's hurting people. You're not the one who gets a sick pleasure out of watching other people suffer because something you did to them. As long as you continue to live your life in the best positive way and have some positive energy, and hopefully Catholic positive energy in your lives are going to turn out just fine. The only thing that would not make your lives turn out fine is if you allow these bullies to keep you down and out. If you go through life being devastated for long periods of time and dwelling on the past and allowing things to hurt you and you never move on, that is when life is not good. Now, I know it's easier said than done, and depending on what happened to you, a traumatizing experience, you don't get over it just like that. You don't. And I have a lot of wonderful friends who I've had over the years who often say to me, well, okay, George, if something has upset you and it's made you really, really unhappy, you need to move on. And they're right. You do. When you have something very traumatizing and upsetting that has happened to you, the ultimate goal in the end is to move on. But it's not always easy to do that. And I'm going to throw out some examples of some popular fictional characters who you've seen on TV or in movies. Now, I love that detective show, Monk. I'm sure a lot of you watching this have seen that. Now, that entire show was about, a detective who lost his wife in a car bomb, and he was very traumatized by it. He was absolutely devastated. It's like the whole world stopped. He tried to constantly keep the memory of his late wife, Trudy, alive. He never threw away any of her stuff. He kept it. He would often visit her grave. He acted like she was still alive. I mean, she gave him a present for Christmas, and he never opened it because he wanted to keep the memory of her alive. And he never bought a new watch. He always kept the watch that she gave him, even though it was broken, to keep the memory of his late wife alive. You see, for Detective Monk, he did not move on. He allowed this traumatizing event to destroy him, and time just stopped. He even said in one episode, I don't have a future. And his friend, Captain Stottlemyre, said, yes, you do. Now, when I first was watching this show, I was, in my late teens. I didn't fully understand all of these things. I'm glad that I do now. And I always thought, like, wow, this guy, he had a very traumatizing thing happen to him that tore him apart, and he's not moving on. He has obsessive compulsive disorder. He sometimes has trouble leaving his home. He's absolutely devastated, and he was screwed up, and everybody around him could clearly see that. So like I say, please, don't let that be you. Now, ultimately, and sometimes I've met people who have been through, like, failed marriages, and it took them 30 years to get over it, or even like things I've told you that I've been through, and I'm sure a lot of you watching, you may think that you have a story that can top mine. Well, we're not doing that. We're not competing against each other for the worst possible story, all right? But I'm just saying, for any of you watching this who may have a story, a sad story about some traumatizing event that have happened to you in your lives that you might still be struggling with today, the ultimate goal is to move on. That's the ultimate goal. Now, depending on what you've been through, there's a process that you go through, a grieving process, healing process, or something. Here are some of the things that help me, and I want to share them with you because I care, and I don't want anybody to go through or struggle through things I've been through because I care. Take a nice long walk alone, somewhere nice where you can breathe some wonderful fresh air. Maybe even where there's lots of trees. Like on a day like today. Don't go with anybody. Just be alone. Gather your thoughts and just try to relax and release those negative thoughts. Now, it's optional. If you want to listen to some music, you have earphones or earbuds, take your phone with you or whatever you have. Okay, do that if it helps. You can do that. I wouldn't say don't do that. But for me, if I'm devastated about something, I'm not going to be in the mood to listen to music. I want to think, and I want to clear my thoughts. And music, for me, doesn't always help. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But walk somewhere where you can get some fresh air and be alone, and where there's a lot of trees. It's a healthy environment. Another thing, obviously, you need to have some wonderful friends in your life who care about you, or even family members who are willing to sit down and talk to you and listen to you and help you through this. And I recommend find some good people in your life who have an unconditional love for you. People who are here for you unconditionally. I know I've said this before. Unconditional friends, whatever friends. Has anybody here ever had a friend or somebody they thought was their friend? You went to them with your problems and you talked to them about something difficult you were going through, and they stopped talking to you shortly after that? It's because they didn't want to hear about your problems, or they don't like hearing you talk about your problems, even though you only may have talked to them once or twice. You thought they were your friend, and all of a sudden they bailed on you. That is not the kind of person you should be talking to about your problems. You need to talk to people who care. Somebody who cares. Don't talk to somebody about your problems who you're not 100% sure if they're going to care. Don't talk to someone who's going to bail on you. That's for sure. Another thing that helps me is, try to watch some movies that put a smile on your face. That works for me a lot. Watch movies that really make you happy and put a smile on your face, whether that be a comedy or an action or maybe even a horror movie. Some people are thrilled by those. For me, it depends. But yeah, try to watch some movies that really put a smile on your face. Here's another thing that helps me. You see this Chinese waterfall that I always have here during the broadcast? Listen to that water. See? Listening to the water flowing. Now, whether you live near a river or a lake or the ocean or whatever, just listening to this water. It's another thing to help get you think, like when I was talking about walking in the fresh air where there are trees. Listening to nature. You're not talking and you're not listening to anyone else. You're alone in a peaceful setting, in a positive environment where you can hear the wind or you hear the trees or you hear the water. These are good things to clear your head, to clear the air. Amen? And let me see if I have any other ideas. And ultimately, and I know I've said this in different ways in previous broadcasts in the past, do not dwell on the negative things of your past. And trust me, I've been there myself. If you keep thinking about and dwelling about and talking about with people you're close to about some problem you had or are still having, about something that made you devastated, if you talk about it all the time and you revisit that a lot, like you're still there, then you'll never move on. That's what Detective Monk did. He talked about his wife all the time. He talked about the car bomb. He talked about how he lost his wife. He kept revisiting that because that's where he lived. Emotionally, psychologically, mentally, that's where he lived. It's like he stayed there in that traumatizing negative experience and he never moved on. And I've been in similar situations like that myself, when something really, really bad happened to me and I talked about it a lot and I just stayed there. But I didn't know how to get out. I was young and I was surrounded by so many negative people, I didn't know how to get out and move on. So don't stay there. If something terrible happened to you, whatever it was, don't stay there. You need to move forward, and you ultimately need to move on. And sometimes you might need to see a counselor or psychiatrist or talk to someone who cares. Now, depending on what happened to you, see, I hear a lot of people say this. If somebody has a problem and they need someone to talk to, a lot of people will say, well, you should see a counselor. Well, I believe that counselors are good depending on what your problem is. Okay? Because ultimately, you just need a friend. Now, a counselor is not necessarily, well, they're not your friend. They have a professional relationship with you. They have to keep a professional distance from you. They can't hang out with you or see you outside of sessions. So they're not a friend. They are a professional person to help you with your problems, which is great. But depending on what your problems are, I would never say, okay, this person looks sad, they've got problems, go see a counselor. I've had people do that to me, and I remember this one time I went to see a counselor when I was 17, and this counselor was not helpful to me at all. This person said some things to me that were really not helpful, and I, after only like 2-3 sessions, I didn't want to see them anymore. I stopped. Because the problem I was having, even though I was having a problem back then, this person was not helpful to me. And I've always found, at least for me, and feel free to disagree with me, it's totally fine. If you have friends, wonderful friends who will talk to you, who will spend like an hour or even more talking to you over the phone or face-to-face about something you went through that was devastating, those are helpful. Because if you're in a session with a counselor, well, they can only talk to you for like 30 minutes or an hour. You know, you can't just spend all day talking. You have to, there's a limit. That's why I say talk to a friend who really cares about you and wants to be here for you. Because they can talk to you all day and all night. That's something you can get out of that you wouldn't get out of a counselor session. But I'm not saying, I'm not knocking on counselors. I mean no disrespect. I respect them. I just feel counselors and psychiatrists should be utilized for certain problems, but not for any problem. Okay? Yeah. So, definitely talk to friends who are here for you unconditionally. That's something I'm always going to recommend. Or you could even talk to me. If I have the time to talk to you, I'll talk to you, sure. But like I say, if you've been through a negative, traumatizing experience like where you were bullied or you feel like you were, definitely don't stay there. Don't live there. I've done that, and you cannot move on if you're still there. If you're still living there, if you took it with you, if you're carrying it around with you, you're still there. You can't move on. You're not moving on because you're bringing it with you. Okay? Hello, Karen. Hello, Dante. Don't ever carry your traumatizing baggage with you because then you'll never move on. And I understand things are hard, you know. I'm sure that... hello, Karen. Thank you for the shout-out. I hope you get to watch this broadcast from the very beginning. So, like I say, people who bully other people, their lives do not turn out positively. They don't. As I've spent this whole time talking about, you can clearly see that. Thank you, Karen. So, like I say, if you've been bullied or if you're still being bullied today, don't let it keep you down and out and keep you devastated for the rest of your life. These bullies who hurt you or who may still be hurting you, they're doing it because their lives are screwed up. And they seem to get some kind of a pleasure picking on other people like yourself or me. Their lives will not turn out well. Trust me. God can see what's going on. And God loves you because you treat people with love and respect. He certainly does. So if you are somebody who treats people with love and respect, but you're on the receiving end of a lot of disrespect, don't let it knock you down and out. Trust me, things will get better, and these people who hurt you, their lives are not going to turn out all that great. Having learned all these things, seen these things, noticing these things, oh yeah. I just feel blessed from our Lord for, communicating to me how much He loves me and how much He loves everyone, and helping to heal me. I'm still healing from some things. Like I say, I don't know if it's a process that can ever end, but I have been traumatized, and believe me, it hurts. But when you know how much God loves you, it feels good to be alive. So, I think that's all I have for now. I gotta get back to my schoolwork. One thing I'd like to do right now while I'm still here with you is, I'm just gonna take a few moments of silence, and I know it's been a while since I've done this, let's just listen to the Chinese waterfall. Let's listen to the water here. Let's just be silent for a few moments, and we can pray, but let's just focus on this, on the water. I'll step out of frame for just a moment. And I recommend, please close your eyes and let's try to think peaceful, positive thoughts. Let me know if that was helpful to any of you. Like I talked about listening to river water or this water. It can be helpful, truly. So, another thing I also want to point out, I was just thinking about this. I want to share this before I sign off. I remember this one time when I saw a counselor years ago, and this was a Christian counselor, and he was such a great guy. I have nothing but love and respect for him. I had so many wonderful experiences, he helped me throughout a lot. He truly did. And I remember one of the methods he used was something, what he called EMDR, and that stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And what that involved was I was holding like two pieces of a wire in each of my hands, and I would feel a vibration, in the right or the left, and he would ask me questions about some terrible trauma that I went through that was making me sad. So I just let my thoughts go. And I told him all of my negative thoughts that I remembered from these experiences, and he wrote them down. And then he turned off the EMDR, and we spent a lot of time talking about those things. Now, I have a very dear friend, my friend Holly. I told you she has a Facebook page as well, Positive Quotes with Author Holly. She often talks about journaling. And I feel, and normally I don't do this, I don't write to myself. I don't write down like negative thoughts. I don't like writing down something really, really bad that happened in my life because I don't want to remember these things. But I feel that it's a good method. I'm not going to tell other people not to use that method, but if you have a lot of negative thoughts about something that's still bothering you and that you can't seem to get over, you could, whether you choose to write them down or not, share them with someone who cares about you and loves you very dearly and unconditionally, who's willing to listen to you, and who's not going to leave you just because you told them your problems. Share them with them. And listen to what they have to say. Think of the person who can be most helpful to you. Share your thoughts. And listen to what this helpful person has to say to you. You'll be surprised. Journaling can help in certain situations. But like I say, when this counselor wrote down my negative thoughts and feelings, and then he spent 45 minutes to an hour talking to me about them, I was blown away. I really was. And he focused on the things in my life that happened that were the most intense, that upset me the most. And the way he spoke, the methods he used, it just made my life so much better. I was so happy talking to him, obviously because he was a Christian counselor, and we often talked a lot about God and Jesus and the Bible in our sessions. And I'll never forget my last session with him. I saw him for 6 months, and our very last session, I remember, I showed him how happy I was. I had a big smile on my face, and I gave him a big hug. And I told him, I won't mention names, I told him, thank you, you've made a very wonderful difference in my life. And I said, God bless you, and he hugged me, and he said, God bless you. You see, have you ever noticed that the people in this world who are really, really unhappy, they don't have a lot of people like that in their lives who will give them a hug and say, God bless you. Now, if we had more people like that in our lives, we probably wouldn't be depressed to begin with. We probably wouldn't be carrying around these negative things like we have been. Doesn't that sound about right? Anyways, I've talked for quite a while. I usually don't talk for a long time, but this is some really great, meaningful stuff, and I have a lot of wonderful thoughts and life experiences about these things that I feel are helpful to others around me, and that's why I do this, because we're here to help each other out. So I hope you've learned a lot of wonderful things. And please feel free to leave comments about what you think about what I've said. And feel free to share anything you like that may have reminded you of some experience you've had. So I love you guys. Thank you. I hope you've learned a lot. Please don't carry your negative trauma with you throughout your lives. Dump it, get rid of it, and don't stay there. And please remember, dignification is better than criticism. God bless.